Okay. I think we'll officially start, and hopefully some more people will join us. That this is the virtual newcomer session for 2020 NACDEP. And if you weren't here earlier, we're hoping that there's been some technical snafus. We're hoping that has not led people to not attend. We're hoping that they are sending panic messages to Melinda and Ricky and Adam and anyone else they might be able to get hold of right now. What has happened is that some Oxford Abstracts wasn't recognizing all the registrants, and it was and don't feel badly because I got the same message, so it's not like it's picking on any particular person or it's totally random. So this is a session.
I was going to say, it looks like Godwin got in. Did you figure it out, Godwin? Did it go okay when you worked on it?
What was that?
Did you have trouble getting into the conference or?
I gave him the link.
Yeah, I did. When I logged in with my Gmail account, it said access denied.
Okay.
But I had the opportunity to go to the public programming, but not the Zoom account.
Okay, I think what's happened is that people, whatever email you registered with for the conference is the email to use.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I will be, yeah, you're not alone at all, but I just kind of wanted to see what your experience was. So
yeah,
we're going to be sending out an email to everybody just to let them know, make sure to log in with the email with which you registered.
And it still may not work because that's what I did. It still didn't.
My fault. Sorry.
Okay.
I got the second one. So.
No, it's not your fault at all. I just wanted to check and see how it was going for people. So, okay.
Yeah, I also got the access denied message when I used the same email both times, but it didn't seem to actually make a difference. I still was able to get on here and access things with the public.
Okay.
program.
All right. These are good notes for me to talk to our Oxford people about.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing, Melinda, to think about maybe in that email is it asked you for the password that you registered with Oxford. And I didn't know that. I couldn't remember what mine was.
Okay.
So I had to make a new password. So that hung me up, and maybe if we include that in your email, that'll save somebody a couple of steps.
And I used the same password that I registered with Oxford with, and I got the access denied for me. So it's just all over the place.
My system saves my passwords, so I have to destroy the computer if it ever gets stolen, type of thing. But for those, my table's now. Oh, my table is falling apart. Welcome to the virtual newcomer session. I'm Michael Daugherty. I'm the chair of the Member Services Committee. We have put together a detailed program, but we're probably going to given the numbers that we have, we're still going to cover the same material, though we might actually do things a little bit more in depth and allow everybody to introduce themselves, because that helps us understand who we are and what we're all about. So we may not use, we had planned to use, we had 8 people lined up for breakout rooms, and I don't think that Tammy and Jada and Jackie can go, that 3 into 8 doesn't work very well. Somebody'd have to be in 3 rooms and 2 others in 2. Not quite what's needed, but we do want to welcome you, and hopefully you'll learn something from this session, and we'll learn from you and maybe from some of our other newish members, because I know at least one member of our group here is relatively new to NACDEP. But what we're going to talk about is what led you to NACDEP, what you want to get out of NACDEP, and what you think about NACDEP, what brought you here. So, but before we go any further, I want to do a quick introductions. I have no idea where they are on your screen, but if you see Ricky Atkins, he is our he's the man who is behind. He's the man behind the curtain for NACDEP. He's our association manager. Then you have Adam Hodges, who was president for about 3 more days, or he's whatever. He's from West Virginia. He can't count. I can say that we're both in the same state.
Yeah, I was going to say, nice, Michael. You're calling yourself out.
I know. You notice I was just, I can say that. Nobody else can say that about us, but I can say that.
And we wear plaid in West Virginia. Michael and I coordinated.
Yes. And then also, we have with us Melinda Grismer, who is our incoming president. So she gets to and have been handling all of the fun stuff. Others on the call are some other past presidents, or Susan Kelly, who is the immediate past president and will stop being that in 3 days or 4 days or however long. And then Michael Wilcox, who is a 5-year past president. Oh, he's just waving 5. I don't know. Who was a past president years ago. It was really fun because at one point there were 3 Michaels on the board calls. And it was always confusing when you said Michael, and then half the people on the call would say, what? Not quite half, but others, let's see, committee members are Nicole Walker of Florida, Nicole Breezewell of Kentucky, Molly Donovan, who is also the Northeast rep and our board rep from New Hampshire, not Vermont, as I put on the slide, and I had Nicole Walker, I had an H, and Nicole Breezewell, I had Nancy. I've gotten all those corrected. Wait and see if any more corrections come in before I get them to Adam. So if you committee members, you haven't looked at it, make sure I haven't messed up something terribly. We also have Godwin Apalaya from Ohio State, Peter Wolfhorst from Penn State, Walt Whitmer. I'm not going to tell you where he's from. It's in his name if you're not looking at the screen. Jan Steen from Kansas State, who is one of the ComCom co-chairs, and that's the communications committee, and Jamie Mennon, who's also A, from Penn State, and B, the other co-chair for ComCom. You'll hear about the committees and some opportunities to get involved during the business meeting, which is when Adam steps away and Melinda takes over, which I believe is Tuesday, isn't it? Okay. Deviate here a little bit since we only have, I think, 4 with Jason's arrival. Ask our newcomers to introduce themselves, and Melinda's going to speak a little bit, and then we'll go into our breakout activity. Although we'll do it as a group because we're all here. I'm just going to go as I see them on my screen. Tammy, just tell us what state, who you are, say your name, where you are, what you do, and
okay, I'm Tammy Estevez. I am in Orlando, Florida. I am not officially in a paid community development position. I teach for Troy University in Master of Public Administration. Troy is in Troy, Alabama, but I teach fully online. So I am here in Florida, and I just moved here when my husband retired from the military. So looking to get connected. So I have been doing some volunteer work with one of the extension offices and applying to possibly get into a CRD position.
welcome. I've been to Orlando. I had a meeting there once at the Gaylord Palms. I got lost trying to get to the front desk. If you've ever been, the Gaylord Palms like 1,000 rooms, and it's like got an indoor jungle. The atrium is humongous, and literally I got lost inside the hotel. I spent the week before that meeting at Disney World, so I actually made good use of my time. Welcome, and we got the West Virginia University. We got our football coach from Troy. So, Jada Lindblom. Jada, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Jada Lindblom. I am a community and economic development field specialist with the UNH Extension, and I just started there this winter, as I mentioned earlier. One thing that I'm excited about attending this conference for is even though I came here upon finishing my PhD at Arizona State in community resources and development. So even though my degree was broadly community development based, my own work was more niched within sustainable tourism at the community level. So I'm looking forward to having a chance to sort of re-broadening my horizons a little bit more and hearing about a lot of the good work that everyone is doing.
Excellent, and that's where you're at. I've got a colleague here, Doug Arbogast, who is our tourism specialist. You probably have already run into him.
Yep, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah. So real good guy and does a lot of fantastic work. So I'm glad you've already had the chance to link with him. And I apologize. It's Jada, not Jada.
It's Jada. I tell people it rhymes with enchilada. That always seems to stick.
Okay. Well, it's great for you to be here. Again, I apologize for getting the name wrong.
No problem.
Jackie, you're next.
Sure. Jackie Steinhauer. I am a county engagement specialist and community economic development and agriculture business for the University of Missouri Extension. And I'm about 2.5, close to 3 years in my position, but I've been spending a lot of my time kind of catching up on the ag business side because that's not where I've done a lot of my work. And so just now getting into a lot of the community development side of my job, which is where I've worked for the last 20 years, most of it in the regional planning commission setting. So I'm excited that I stumbled upon this. I'm really excited about one of the sessions on intergenerations in community development because I serve on a nonprofit that is working right now to address some of those communication issues between the intergenerations, not only in communities, but businesses. So I'm excited for that session.
So what part of Missouri are you based out of? Are you in Columbia?
So I am in the extreme northwest area of Missouri. So I actually am about 10 miles from the Iowa border and about an hour and a half from the Nebraska border.
Well, welcome. And I think that's one of the things people sometimes forget, how our work in community development, it's not isolated. It branches everything else that's done in extension. Agribusiness is certainly one of the many inflection points. The last person I don't recognize, it means a newcomer probably, is Jason. Jason, do you go by Jason or Scott?
I go by Jason.
Okay.
The Penn State just fills our name in, and I don't want to change it every time. I'm Jason Enspinger. A number of you already know me. I am the Associate Director of the Northeast Regional Center for Rural Development. And so in that role, and if you don't know me and you're from the Northeast, you're about to know me more. In that role as Associate Director, I help coordinate our outreach and extension work across the region on community and economic development. So I'm looking forward to under Molly's session with the region, talking about sort of some of the upcoming things that the Northeast would like to be doing. But ironically, because of the pandemic, Jackie, I have not yet relocated from Columbia, Missouri, where I just finished my PhD at Mizzou. And I probably have a connection to almost everyone. Let's see, someone was here from Orlando. I did a master's at UF. I grew up out west in Nevada. So, you know, yeah, Hater Chomp Nicole. So, yep. So I'm looking forward to just sort of all the connections across the country, but especially within the Northeast over the next week.
That welcome, and I'll say that as someone who I'm sure I'll see you at the Northeast meeting. The regional meetings are Monday afternoon at 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central. For those of you, and there are separate rooms from each of the 4 regions. I don't think we have anybody on here from the West, but we do have Northeast and North Central and South represented. There are the geographic regions that meet are based upon the 4 extension regions. There are also additional meetings for at another time, so we don't conflict, for the 1890 institutions and the 1994 institutions. But welcome to all of our newcomers. I'm good at this point. Want to give I asked our incoming president to say a little bit about her NACDEP story, and then we'll have people, and then that's what we'll talk about. And we'll probably do this as a large group process, and that'll give you a chance to hear from those members who I introduced, as well as us to hear from you, because the only way to make NACDEP move is to hear from its members and to make sure we're serving those, especially those who are just joining us. Melinda, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Michael, could I interrupt for just a second and make a request? Could you mute yourself when people are talking? There's a huge amount of feedback. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I was going to when I did Melinda. I can't even hear it. I've got my computer hums, and that's what it is. So when Melinda will start, I will mute and go to my headphones. Melinda, all yours.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'm really, really excited to be here. And it was kind of cool to have the opportunity to reflect on my NACDEP story. I've been living it, but I have never really reflected on it. So it was kind of fun to write it all down. And I'm excited to share it with you. Hopefully briefly, but also, you know, I've included more than I would normally talk about just because hopefully it's helpful to someone else as you're reflecting on your journey and, you know, what more you'd like to get out of NACDEP or, you know, what you already have gotten out of NACDEP that maybe you forgot about and you haven't had a chance to really think about until now. So we have a little space to kind of think about it today. So my NACDEP story began in 2010 in South Carolina. My very first conference was in Charleston, which I love Charleston. I started out my married life in South Carolina. And so I love South Carolina. So it was very fun to be there. I got a little ambitious that year and I submitted 4 abstracts for the conference and all 4 of them got accepted. So I was, it's amazing I can remember Charleston because I was buzzing around the conference like crazy. But I think, you know, over these last 10 years, I've been a really active member ever since really 2010. And I've been a huge proponent of the work that, you know, we do together as community development professionals. And I think the 3 buckets that I would say that I think about when it comes to NACDEP are the networking, the growth, and the reflection. And for me, they break out like this. So the networking, I feel like occurs all year long, especially if you decide to get involved in a committee or if you communicate with a colleague on something that you're working on for your programming. You can kind of think of the networking as a year-round kind of thing that happens because you're a member of NACDEP. The growth for me, I would say, occurs when I'm learning those best practices, either from working with other people or from hearing about someone else's best practice during the conference. And then just also from other, you know, my colleagues' lived experiences. So a lot of times I'll call on them to ask them about how they handled something, you know, or just, you know, from a diversity standpoint, reaching out to someone who's had a different experience than I have to find out, you know, maybe what I could learn from that. So, so that's for me where the growth occurred. And then the reflection occurs at this once a year time frame where we kind of give ourselves that space, either virtually or in person, to remember together why we do what we do. And so I love that, even though sometimes like this year for me as the incoming president with all the craziness trying to get the conference ready, I'm still very happy that we make this time as community development professionals to take time to network with each other and really think about what we're doing and why we do it. And so I would say, you know, I began networking right away with the NACDEP conferences. And then by 2014, I got recruited to be NACDEP's, one of the members of NACDEP's communications committee, which we affectionately call ComCom. And then I served in that capacity until I was tapped in 2017 by Brian Raisin to be the incoming chairperson of ComCom. And so I served as the ComCom chairperson until I was tapped to run for president-elect by David Civitolo in 2019. And then I just came in as the incoming president or president-elect position in 2020. And all of the, I mean, I've been learning as I go along. I certainly don't know everything yet, and I'm sure I won't. Probably it'll be looking in the rear view window thinking what I should have done. But hopefully, you know, even though it's all a little overwhelming, especially this week, even emotionally as I reflect, I think it's been great for me in that I've learned so much about our land grant system, both the structure and the mission really of it. Learned more about 1890s, more about the 1994s, and I think we'll be doing that even more as we launch this well, little secret for new members, diversity, equity, and inclusion committee that we're kind of working on and at the board level. So we're going to be doing more of that. And I think NACDEP has been great in that it takes, I've loved that it's a proactive organization. And when we're tackling diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's something that we're, as a JSEP organization, one of the first ones to really look at this as in depth as we have and as we're going to be. So I guess, you know, personally, when I look back, I think about all those presentations. I think about those sharing of ideas that we've done, and I hope to do more of, especially as I've been a big proponent of we need to do more with our profile pages so that we can almost have a directory of extension across all of our community development professionals. So that's something I'm gonna rah-rah into the next year. And then I also love that, like, I think back to, you know, Nody Lansford's presentation that he did at one of the NACDEP conferences. I think it was 2020, I think it's 2012 or 2013, and he had done a great video on local government closer to the people. And so my colleague Tamara Ogle and I from Purdue, she's the incoming co-chair for the 2022 conference. We took his idea and we made a video of our own for Indiana. And so I look back and think there's a lot that has happened because of my involvement with NACDEP. A lot has happened, you know, for Purdue, and a lot has happened for me in my own professional career because of my involvement in NACDEP that otherwise would not have happened. So I guess the last thing I'll say is, you know, when that reflection piece, when we come together, take a breath and kind of make space for ourselves to get to know each other and think about what we do. One article that I really, really like is The Soul of Community Development by Ron from the University of Kentucky. I'm going to try to attach it to this listing so you can look at it. It's a PDF of his article. But, you know, if you have a quiet moment and you want a cathartic read, pick that up and help, you know, it helps you remember kind of why you do what you do, and just be thankful to be community development professionals, because there's a lot of beauty in that. So thank you. Any thoughts, questions?
Yeah, questions for, well, first of all, let's give a round of applause for our speaker. Yeah, I never know what to do in Zoom meetings in this, because it's like there's a natural thing. Susan's like looking like she's swimming through the air of wherever she is. And it's been identified that it might not be my computer, it might be my fluorescent lights, but I also know my computer sometimes really gets noisy. So I've gone to the headphones. That should minimize any background noise from me. And except for when I'm talking, and that's just, you know, and that's my voice, that's background noise there that is annoying. But are there any questions for Melinda before we move forward? Okay. Well, some things might come up, but originally at this point, we're going to break people into breakout rooms, because we've got 50-ish newcomers who are attending this conference. However, there's only four of you who are on this call. So rather than do that, go to breakout rooms, we'll just do this as a group exercise. And what I'll do is I'll put these questions out there and we'll start with the newcomers, then anyone else who'd like to answer them. This could also be helpful insight for that. And you can also learn from our other members. And the first one is, how do you see that your work may benefit from the support of NACDEP?
Mike, can I interrupt?
Okay.
Please, for a second.
Yes, you may interrupt.
Haven't we jumped the agenda a little bit? Weren't we going to do stories after Melinda?
Walt, I'm sorry, you are correct. Thank you. I did not mean to jump the agenda.
No worries. No worries.
Right. Well, so that gives you a little foreshadowing. But the next part, following up, before we have several people who are going to, answer that question a little bit more in depth before we start asking of you, some of our members. As Michael Wilcox noted, it's better to jump the agenda than jump the shark, although there'd probably be more TV ratings than jumping the shark. At least actually if you were the actual lead to do it. So as I said, 4 people, Godwin, Jamie, Nicole, and Walt were all going to give us basically a little bit about their when a moment in time when their NACDEP involvement had been useful in their extension work or in their positions. So whoever wants to go first, and I'll let y'all start.
Godwin, your name is first. You want on my list anyhow. You want to go?
Well, okay, good. Well, let me start this way since Walter started. I think it's about 10 years now since I joined NACDEP, and I think that I've learned a lot and I've grown a lot. First of all, I've learned to network with people, and in particular, joining the membership committee last year, I have looked at the membership committee, and I saw that we have many things in common in terms of expertise and programming. So, and there was one point in time I contacted Walt to say, hey, I see you have this expertise and this is what you do. Is it possible for us to do some programming across state lines? He said, sure, let's talk about it sometime. So I wouldn't have gotten this opportunity and known to know all these people in extension throughout the whole country if I hadn't joined the membership committee. And I've seen that I can get a lot of expertise. I'm still learning from people who have been in the extension and do the same thing I'm doing for many years. I can learn from them, and I can grow from them. So I think that joining the NACDEP committee, it's helped me to grow and get to know many people. Networking too is good. But locally here, I have in Ohio State, I've learned to become a leader because I joined the NACDEP, the state chapter, and I've taken leadership responsibility roles, which I think that it's built my capacities a lot. And I think that NACDEP is a very professional development entity, and it's helped me to grow in many ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Godwin. And we'll just go from the order I have them here. Jamie, you're next.
Sorry, I had a problem unmuting. Okay, so my name's Jamie Mennon. I'm with Kansas State Research and Extension. And my first NACDEP was in 2014 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I remember just being there and overwhelmed and like, being an introvert, I was really anxious. And I found out pretty much right away I didn't need to be. I mean, this is such an amazing group and everybody, honors everybody in that way. They kind of let me figure things out. And I remember we were there, it was Trudy Rice and myself, and we were a team of 2 from Kansas State Research and Extension that were community vitality. We had one program, which was our flagship program, the Kansas Pride program. And I never imagined that meeting conference would be the gateway to expanding our programming in the way that it expanded. I say that as in, it wasn't just sharing ideas, it was actually a way for us to build programming and advocate for positions. We started with the Kansas Pride program, then we started to have the idea to revamp the First Impressions program, and then grant writing. And as we created this, the programming, we could say, well, we need a person for this, we need a person for that. And we grew from a staff of 2 to 6 in a matter of years. And it was just pretty amazing. I say we owe it all to NACDEP to be able to have those ideas, bring that back to Kansas, and be able to help the citizens here with their community vitality needs. I will say that when I first started, Brian Raisin pretty much grabbed me right away and was like, oh, would you want to be part of one of the most awesome committees. Actually, I'll say it's the most awesome committee, ComCom. And it was kind of one of those things I was like, I'm not sure. And so, but it was the best decision. It was amazing because the committee, I think, just like any other committee on it with NACDEP, is that you're making a difference. You're working, and the things that you volunteer to do are just they're making a difference for the organization. And so Jan and I became co-chairs of ComCom last year. We filled the shoes of Melinda Grismer. I say that there had to be two people to do it because she was doing an amazing job. But I'll just say that committee, ComCom, has been one of the most rewarding experiences to be able to assist a national organization. So anyway, that's my story in a nutshell. I don't want to go on forever. I could, but anyway, it's been an incredible experience.
Thank you, Jamie. Nicole, you're next. Chomp, chomp. That's the Florida Gator for that.
Close enough, Mike. Thank you. A lot of hands. So yeah, we good. No, thank you so much. I'm Nicole Walker. I serve as the County Extension Director, 4-H and Community Development Agent in Central Florida. And I have been a member of NACDEP for almost 3 years. I joined just before attending the 2019 conference in Asheville. And part of my motivation for joining was that we wanted to start a state association to support our fledgling community development programming in Florida. So that hopefully Tammy will be joining in with us pretty soon. So we are building a cadre of agents and specialists in this area, and saw that the association was going to make a lot of sense for us with hiring new county extension directors with a community development responsibility and people not even knowing what that was supposed to mean. So we really needed the association to help us in Florida. So we do have an association now, and we're part of NACDEP, under the NACDEP umbrella, and are continuing to grow and get more support. A very recent story now that is ongoing, of one of the reasons that the conference itself is pretty awesome, is that we had the opportunity to see Dr. Nicole, who's on this session now from Kentucky, presenting with a team about ripple effect mapping and as an evaluation tool. So since that time, a colleague of mine and I were private chatting back and forth during that session saying, we need to be doing this. So anyway, over the past several months, Dr. Nicole has actually been helping us in Florida. We just had a series of, was it three ripple effect mapping sessions with the master gardeners in my county. So along with our residential horticulture agent and 2 of our community development agents, and just did a short presentation on ripple effect mapping at a state conference we had just this past week. So just that connection right there is making an impact on our community development work here in Florida. And we've had the opportunity now to introduce a new tool to our colleagues already. So I think a lot of times the value of a membership in an association is directly related to the conference and how valuable that conference is to us. But I could clearly see from that first conference I attended that this is something I wanted to be a part of. It's one of those out of my pocket associations, professional development association membership, but it's totally worth it. So for those of you who are not yet members, I encourage you to enjoy the conference, glean as much as you can out of it, and definitely consider being a member year long and reaping the benefits of that membership. Thanks, Mike.
Well, thank you, Nicole. And everybody heard has been great to work with on the committee. And now we have Walt, who the reason I said Walt was, we have different stages. Walt was actually involved at the founding of NACDEP. And so he can bring multiple perspectives, but I'm not, so he's going to talk about his aha moment with the association.
I don't know if there are, thanks, Mike. And good morning, everyone. I don't know if there are any aha moments, but it is, I was thinking about this just this morning, and, you know, you'll hear, those of you who are joining us new, you'll hear lots of things, you'll have lots of experiences. Melinda and others have shared sort of the opportunities to learn and grow as professional developers in a professional development context and all of those kind of things. But I remember I was part of the group that started NACDEP, and it's possible to take for granted the things that we have now. We didn't have a collective voice. We didn't have an opportunity to share community development programming expertise with one another. We didn't have a place within the extension system that identified us as real life worthy humans, and all of that kind of thing that is now off and flourishing and so wonderful to see. It's extraordinary. And I couldn't even begin to count the value from me personally of all the friends and things I've learned and all of that sort of thing in these 20 years almost. But I did hang behind me from a personal perspective. I don't know which way I go. Can you see that shirt with signatures all over it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we started NACDEP in 03 and in 2000, late 2005, I got very sick with cancer and spent all of 2006 in the hospital. Incredibly devastating. So this was just a few years after NACDEP. Well, everybody at the 2006 conference grabbed that shirt and signed it and sent it to me when I was in the hospital, sort of fighting to hang on. And so in addition to all the professional wonder and value that I've gotten personally out of NACDEP, there's a professional element of sort of mutual support that's emblematic of that just is, you know, invaluable to me. And I will always be thankful for that. That's all I have, I guess.
Well, that's pretty powerful, and all the stories were powerful, and that's why we're here. And this, you know, it's hard to believe, but 20 years ago this didn't exist. I don't mean the Zoom platform, but just the whole concept of NACDEP. The first time people doing community development work for Extension got together was in Orlando in 2002, and there was no association. It was just sort of a called meeting, and people piled in to that. And I know that, I mean, there are some of us who were there. I mean, Peter and I actually traveled together on a train. That was an interesting trek, and he still talks to me, so that's pretty amazing. But it, you know, and there's people who literally are just coming now. But this has meant a lot to us because we have matured as a discipline within Extension, and are recognized and have opportunities and have had people, you know, you heard Walt, or I think Walt mentioned that JCEP, that, or someone has, certainly, I know Melinda, that's Joint Council of Extension Professionals. That's the umbrella of the 7 extension professional associations. And NACDEP is one of them. There are 5 that are there's 5 that are discipline based. There's the Honorary Society of Epsilon Sigma Phi, and there's the one for I would say staff professionals, which has an unpronounceable acronym, and is the newest of them. But for many years there was nothing. I mean, if you were in community development, that if you were compared to being in 4-H or family consumer science or agriculture or even natural resource, which was just their association is a little bit older than ours. So this has been important. And before we go any further, Nicole, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just wondering if anybody, I mean, those are really amazing stories, and I just wanted to say thank you for being willing to share those stories and how much they mean to me, frankly, as a new NACDEP member who's only been here for a year. It really helps for me to imagine where I may be able to be in a decade or two. And so I'm really grateful. And I was just wondering if other people had some thoughts that they wanted to share about questions that they have or what they hope to get out of NACDEP.
Which exactly is what we were going to ask our newcomers. So we're going to start with those who are here as that, because you've heard now what some of our members of our committee, the Member Services Committee, and the charge of that committee is to serve the members, provide things, and one of the things we do is this session. We also do the scholarships. We also do the Wednesday webinars, which was very useful this year because it provided a lot of professional development opportunities that might not have otherwise been available during the pandemic. But want to know from those who are here, who are new or relatively new, because I might even just call on Nicole since she only joined, she was in this role last year after Jackie and Jason and Jada and Tammy have had a chance. But what do you hope to, you come here for a reason. How do you think your work might benefit from NACDEP, and what do you need from us? We'd love to hear it.
Well, I'll go ahead and share. I'll just jump in. So I've been as I mentioned before, I worked in the nonprofit and the regional planning commissions for a long time, and was very tied into some national associations for those organizations, the National Association of Development Organizations, the National Safety Council organizations. And I was kind of stumbling through the first 2.5 years of my extension work going, what is that national association that I'm looking for to help me with my work here? By trade, I'm a planner, which means a lot of my work is being a translator for those dreamers and the architects, and I'm a doer. And so when I engage in my communities and I find out what their issues are and what their needs are and where they need to go, sometimes I don't have those creative juices flowing enough to go and think of those solutions for them, or think of what directions to go for them. So I love national organizations to see what other folks are doing in other states that I can kind of look at and say, how can this apply to my communities and to my region, and then tweak it and twist it to make it work. And so I've missed that for the last about 2.5 years. And so that's what I'm hoping from NACDEP that I can get. Not that my colleagues across the state of Missouri are not helping with that as well. But I always like to look at other states. I'm very interested in the Pride organization or the Pride group from Kansas. I've looked at that so many times, and coming from an organization that has worked with Missouri Community Betterment, and it's not quite working very well in the state of Missouri. I'm like, how can we kind of mirror what they're doing in Kansas and bring that under Extension's umbrella and do that? So I maybe get Jamie, I'll touch base with you and Jan on the side and kind of talk to you a little bit about that. But I just love all the ideas and the idea sharing and the ability to talk to each other and bounce ideas off of one another and see where it works and where I can make it fit in my area.
Great. That's the connections, and that's the reason we're here, and we become a very valuable support network to one another. I'm just going to go in the order I see on my screen, unless someone's jumping in. Jada, were you jumping in?
Yeah, I'll go next.
Go for it.
If it's all right. Yeah, I would echo what Jackie just said. I think a lot of my experiences have sort of been similar, where in the past, although I've had a couple different sort of career areas, I've often been a member of professional associations or nonprofit associations, and they've been so helpful. Just having chances to both formally and informally gather just to share ideas and commiserate sometimes, whatever it may be, I think is really valuable to know that you're part of a bigger system that's trying to achieve similar goals. And I think right now, one of the challenges I see in the region that I'm going to largely be working in is that not everybody sees the words community development as a good thing. And I think I'm looking forward to learning from all of you, not just about best practices, but where you've hit some stumbling blocks and where things have been challenging and, you know, what doesn't work. That's a big part of the picture as well. So yeah, just looking forward to kind of being a sponge to absorb knowledge from you all going forward.
Excellent. And I think Jada brings up a good point, because we so often stress what works. Sometimes we have to share what doesn't work to save people from making the same mistakes that we stumbled upon, because that will make their work much more smooth. I'm gonna, Jason or Tammy, which one of you would like to go next?
I'll go ahead and go. As I mentioned in my intro, I'm sort of coming at this around a different way, and I kind of feel like a kid in a candy shop with everything that's there and the offerings. And you know, when I got into academia and teaching in a university, I never wanted to do research for the sake of doing research. I wanted to do stuff that was going to be meaningful and change communities and change lives and change people and be involved in that. But it was really hard when my husband was in the military and we were only in places for 2 or 3 years. So getting here to Florida and being settled and able to put down roots and get involved in a community became really important to me. And that's where I started getting involved. Unfortunately, here where I am in Orlando and Orange County, it's been hard to get involved because UCF kind of has the lock on everything in this area. And so it's been hard as someone at a different university to kind of get involved. So I started reaching out to, I found out about extension through, well, I was in 4-H many years ago when I was a kid in Virginia. And but then I was at an ILA, International Leadership Association online conference, and an extension agent did a presentation about leadership and 4-H being involved in study abroad. And I thought, well, that's not the 4-H I remember. And so I got to know more about what 4-H was doing. And then by looking into extension, I found CRD, and I kind of felt like I found my tribe and my people, because, you know, I'd been doing workshops through my job on, you know, strategic planning with nonprofits and board development and leadership and doing grant writing and civic engagement and all of those sorts of things. And I just didn't have a name to put with it. So now I kind of had that name and that group of people around me, because there's nobody like me in my program, in my university. And so it was like finding home, you know, and finding it through Google searches and ending up here at NACDEP. And I was just really excited and looking forward to this event and ready to learn more and get plugged in. And maybe I go to work for extension. Maybe I just do it as a freelancer. I'm opening, if any of you want somebody to help out doing an online program where you are, I'm here. So that's just kind of where I am with things, but nice to be here. Thank you guys for such a welcome.
I like what Nicole put in there, and Tammy hopefully likes it too. UF is trying to find a job for you, because yeah, it's so much that, you know, and one of the things that, again, that you learn in this is there's people doing the same things and interested in the same things that we do, but you don't know about them because they're often small numbers in any one place, but together across a state, across a region, across the country, our numbers are greater, and the magnitude of what we can accomplish is greater, which leads us to Jason.
Yeah, that's actually a great segue, because of course, me being just within an RRDC is a slightly different role, sort of slightly different approach to NACDEP. You know, I think for us, and you know, Michael can give his perspective as well. For us in the RRDCs, you know, it's about hearing and listening to what your needs are in the field. Trying to help you connect with your state specialists or connect state specialists and extension agents across regions, but also taking, you know, what challenges and opportunities you're facing through our networks to federal agencies, to communicate those up and to communicate opportunities back down to you as well. And so you know, that for me in my role is really where NACDEP can play an important facilitation and networking role in the work that I aim to do in sort of communicating that information backwards and forwards through different chains, and also helping facilitate partnerships beyond just the land grant university system, but also, you know, understanding how our CED and CRD related professionals, whether they're at main campus or they're in field offices or county agent positions, can connect with the key players in their regions that are going to be important in their work, you know, whether that's economic development districts or nonprofit community development agencies, you know, how we approach the ecosystem and what are lessons that we've learned in our different contexts about our ecosystems is really important, and something that I look forward to learning through the NACDEP networks, because everyone has a different approach and everyone has a different ecosystem that they're living within. And the more that I can see and hear about those things, the better I am able to assist in the sort of regional approaches to success.
Excellent. For those who don't know, the RRDCs, that's the Regional Rural Development Centers. There are 4 currently. They're at Penn State for the Northeast, Mississippi State for the South, Purdue for the North Central, and Utah State for the West. The regions correspond to the extension regions. I
just put the link in the chat to the background, if you don't know.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And that's hosted by Utah State. So do any of the member services committee members like to just share their thoughts on that? Molly, do you have your hand?
Sure. I just want to build on what I'm hearing already this morning. It's so nice to be with all of you. I joined NACDEP maybe in 2013 or 2014. My first conference was in Little Rock, which I think was 2015. Didn't know why I wanted to go to Little Rock, and it soon became like a very favorite place of mine, and I learned so much. So at the conferences, in addition to the networking, you get to visit amazing places doing community development work. And I have really learned from the locations that we've been at. So I look forward to us getting back in person and visiting place as part of the conference. But that first conference, I remember walking in the huge ballroom and I thought, oh my gosh, these people all really know each other. And sort of building on Jamie, my initial reaction is like, I don't know, how will I break into this, or can I? And Walt may not remember this, but when that meeting was over, we got in an elevator and Walt introduced himself and we became friends immediately. Of course, we all had jokes about Charlie French because if you're not aware, Charlie was, I think, part of that original group that helped NACDEP get off the ground. And I remember meeting Susan Kelly, and she felt like a new friend that was an old friend, just welcoming. And so for the new folks, I would say, yes, it's a group of people who really know and support each other, and they welcome everyone in, and it's really amazing. And then just one other comment about learning about what doesn't work. At the time, I was looking at how to connect trails with downtowns, and I had done research across the country on who was doing this, and I kept hearing all this great stuff, and I was unsure. And at that Little Rock, I think it was Little Rock conference, an educator from Kentucky gave a presentation on how trail towns don't work and why they don't work. And so Jai Young and I became friends and colleagues. We ended up getting a grant out of the Northeast Center to look at that work and improve the trail towns in Kentucky and start a new program in New Hampshire. So we've absolutely been able to build on that kind of research and work and networking. So just wanted to share that with everyone.
Any other member like to share? I'm trying to look at all the squares. That's because my head's going back and forth. Reading the room takes on a different meaning when you're on Zoom. So I'm going to pose, if hearing no one else, I'm going to pose another question to our newcomers. What do you need from us, or what do you need from NACDEP to help you do what you want to do?
Well, I would say, unfortunately, I don't know what I don't know because so it's a little harder to answer that. But I do like what Melinda said about having a more robust directory where you can connect with others, that would have specific interests and can reach out to those. The networking opportunities, looking forward to those, just finding ways to connect and get involved. This particular Zoom has already been golden by connecting with Nicole. So now I have someone right here, nearby to connect with. So that's the power for me.
Excellent.
I'll second that comment about directories. I think that's so important. And not just what people have done or what your focus areas are, what you're known for, but also what areas you would like to get more involved with, because that's the piece that's hard to track down by doing just a Google search of somebody's work.
That's something I had not thought of. That could be very useful, because Melinda's going, yeah. She's got, because
I was just thinking, yeah, you could have areas of expertise, areas of interest, and areas of intended growth. It would be kind of cool. Sorry.
Yeah, don't apologize, because that's how we come up. I've done this long enough that I know that sometimes the best responses come toward the end of the sessions. I once did, had 4 2-hour public forums on a strategic plan for development in the county, we're talking 8 hours of public meetings. 7:55, someone comes up with the idea of a community foundation. You never know where those ideas are going to come, and that's why you never take anything for granted, or when they're going to come. And often they come at the as you're getting toward the end. And I really like that, because so many of us would like to, I'd like to try that. And if you said, I'd like to try X, and someone who's working on X invites you in, so suddenly you pick up that knowledge, and as all of you can attest, hopefully you're learning. We are a very inviting organization, even for introverts.
That sounds like a really good activity for the Indie conference when we're all together, Melinda.
I love it. Yeah, that could be really cool. We're going to have some great networking spaces in that facility. You guys are going to love it. It's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Indianapolis in 2022. Jason or Jackie?
I do have something to just kind of share. Backing off of what Jada said about, sometimes you want to know things that work, but sometimes things that haven't worked in your communities. I'm not one to give up real easily. And so some of these hard issues like housing in rural areas and childcare in small communities, the things that are plaguing, rural America, I haven't given up on the fact that I think that there's a solution for it if just smart people like everybody on the Zoom call get together and just start brainstorming ideas. And so I'm excited about the possibilities with NACDEP and getting out of that in the box thinking of, hey, have you tried this? Well, what about this? And just piggybacking off ideas. And I'm very hopeful that there is some of that may happen in the future, because I am at a point where if we don't figure out rural housing in America soon, people aren't going to have places to live. And that's a scary thought, because, we don't have the money to tear down houses, and there's not a profit margin to build new ones. And so anybody have any good ideas on that, please let me know. Throw them away, because I'm stumped.
Well, I think the one way is just we keep talking about it, so we don't let the problem. Because if we stop talking about it, the problem, our attention is going to go away on the problem. The problem's not going to go away. So we just keep working at it till we fix it. Jason, did you want to add anything, or does anybody else want to say anything?
I'm finally able to take my mask off. My intern left, so I'm alone There's a lot I could say. I've been a NACDEP member for a while. My first conference was in 2007 in Philadelphia. And I'll just get on my soapbox really quick. We just successfully created a committee in NACDEP. It's long overdue, focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we are going to be seeking members for that committee. It's an inaugural committee. I helped stand up our development committee a couple years ago, trying to build our financial foundation, if you will, by creating an endowment. And now next on the list is making sure that NACDEP really intentionally focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. When I first met Melinda through NACDEP in South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, over a decade ago, we became fast friends, and I knew that DEI was very near and dear to Melinda's heart back then. And she almost lost her job over it because community members were not interested in DEI. And Melinda was, and very passionate about it, and continues to be a social justice warrior to this day. So I know as president, those of us, I think all of us that are interested in moving DEI forward will be able to do so on the heels of Adam Hodges being the first 1890 representative to be a president. And now Melinda taking over as president, as passionate as she is about it. I want to, I guess, challenge all of you to make a difference in that realm, because if you look at our mission, if you look at our value statement, if you look at our past history, if you look at our leadership, all of those things, we've made great strides, but we still have, and sorry to throw in the science here, but we have a metric shit ton of work to do. And it's going to take all of us to be able to move the needle. I think NACDEP has always been a welcoming organization. It started off a little cliquey. I think we've killed all the cliques, which is good. I think we're far more inclusive than we've ever been, but we have a hell of a lot more work to do. And so do what you can. We're trying to, through the regional rural development centers, we're trying through our cooperative extension system, but it's going to take all of us to make the change that we thought was going to come 53 years ago, when in 1968, when all of these reports were coming out looking at rural poverty and looking at urban unrest and trying to find solutions. And I'm afraid to tell you that all the variables are going in the wrong direction right now. Life expectancy is going down, income inequality is going up. Community development is where it's at in terms of trying to address these issues holistically with the other program areas, but we've got to be the leading edge. So be the leading edge.
Well, and if I can add on to that, Michael, folks like Walt and Charlie and others had a vision when they created this organization. And I think that it was a very forward-thinking vision, because there are a lot of our other associations who don't make a place at the table for the 1890s or the 1994s. And NACDEP did that from the beginning, made sure that there was an elected representative from each of those, land grant institutions as part of the board of directors to make sure that they had a voice at the table. And so we are probably the first one to have a DEI committee because of that, but we've always been that way. And it's thanks to folks like Walt and others who I think founded the organization on those principles.
I agree with you 100%, Adam. And when I was president in 2012, 2013, we did not have a representative in the 1994, and I don't know that we ever had. So it was very forward thinking to have it, but it took a lot of time to try to actually find the liaison. And I know, I understand that we recently lost our liaison, but again, with intention last year, we had a great 1994 breakout meeting. I attended it. It was excellent. I know that the Western Center and the North Central Center are really paying attention to this and trying to build that requisite trust and those relationships that are needed in order to really bring in our brothers and sisters from the 1994s in a impactful and tangible way. So yeah, it's never been better. For sure, but we still have a hell of a long way to go. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been on the, it's funny. Someone mentioned Charleston. I got myself in trouble at that meeting because that's where I went up to the people and said, in 2013, we used to have something called Galaxy where all the extension associations would come together. And the planning was starting in 2010. There were a couple of, it was in Pittsburgh, and both the reps were from Penn State. And I went to them and said, just to let you know, we're West Virginia University is the closest land grant to Pittsburgh. We're 75 miles from Pittsburgh. Even though we're in a different state, we're actually in the same TV market. And next thing I know, one of them said, well, you're so close. Why don't you serve on the committee instead of me? So I started on the board calls in 2010, right after that meeting, and I've been on them ever since. I can tell you that, we've tried, I mean, as Michael said, the one, we strive to have a 1994 representative. The position's always been there. Finding someone to be in it has been the challenge. And sounds like it's going to be a challenge again, but it's not something, it's a challenge we're up to try to meet. We've always had an 1890 representative, and again, that's not something you see in every one of these, because you'd very easily just geographically sign, okay, you're in this region, you just go to you just participate in your geographic region, which they should as well. But there are special needs of those institutions because of tradition, because of funding, because of different mission that also need to be addressed and can be addressed with an additional representative. And that's, we're so fortunate to have Adam, and Michelle is currently our 1890, and I think I can't remember who's replacing her, but
Joy Merton Thomas.
Okay, thank you. So we've had a good succession of people in that, and I just we are, we try to do things. We try to bring in people. The only click we have left is member clicks. If you don't know, that's our computer system. That's the system that we're going to try to get the directory up on. That's what runs. That's the back end of our website. But we're all, I figured, I'm about as big a geeky introvert as there is, and I feel very much at home here. What committee's left for me to chair, Susan?
We'll think of something for sure.
I ran awards and I did conference planning with Galaxy. I did awards and recognition, and now I'm in member services. I'm going to see how long I can keep on the board calls, but I jump in positions. I've also served as was secretary for a year, and also filled in for a regional rep for 6 months. So the point is, there's a lot of opportunities and that you can avail yourself of, and you don't even have to be, both formal and informal. There's all the committees. You learn about those at the business meeting, and then just making contact with your colleagues, because so many of us want someone else to work with. Because the more hands who are doing this, the easier the lift becomes, and the easier it becomes to convince others that this work is meaningful and worthy and deserves their attention and their resources. We've got about 15 minutes. This was going to run from 11 to 12:30. We kind of deviated some from the original program because of everything from technical difficulties to just meeting the needs of our attendees. I'll just turn over whoever wants. If there are questions you have that anyone has about NACDEP, our newcomers, our relative newcomers, our old timers, we've got people here who can answer them, and we've got people here who can help. So if you've got anything you want to know about, now's your time.
I'd just like to sort of echo what Mike said in terms of opportunities and committees and those kinds of things. All the work that's ever been done in this organization, all the strides, from policy to inaugural committees, everything that's ever been done has been the result of committees and people working and people throwing their name in the hat and working towards various pieces of this whole thing that we call NACDEP. And it's invaluable to the organization, but it's also invaluable to all of us. And when I think back over these years, it's astounding how much we've been able to do. And we've only been able to do it because of everybody stepping in, as Mike said, formally or informally, and doing what they can. And it's not anything to be underappreciated, is I guess my point.
And sort of to build on that, Walt, you know, we all work hard. Those of us who kind of get involved in what happens at NACDEP, we work really hard, but we have a lot of fun. I mean, I look forward to my board calls. I've always looked forward to every month to getting on the board calls. We like each other so much that I can't remember if it was Susan or David that started this pregame thing where we all get on a call before the board call, just to kind of hang out together and talk and see how things are going and prepare for the board call. So we have a great time as hard as we work.
David started it. I gave it the cool name.
What's the cool name?
Pregame.
Oh, pregame. Okay.
The pregame. Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of implications for pregame, Susan.
There are. Tailgate.
Back in our day, we called it How to Deal with Darger.
Right. Darger made a big impression on me. He was in front of a lot of the things we're talking about now. The directory we worked on forever in ComCom to get a directory for NACDEP, and you know, those were the days of the three Michaels. Good days. I'm an old timer now, but I will say NACDEP can be a place for extroverts too. My first conference in Minnesota, 2009, at the end of the day, at the end of the sessions, I think somebody just said, "Hey, who wants to go to dinner?" I was like, I do. And I ended up with three of my best friends ever, Kelly Nix and Brian Raisin. And if you're ever on a call with Brian and I, we call each other brother and sister because we are so close. So we left there. We had drinks and dinner with everybody and got on the roller coaster. I had vertigo for 3 weeks. So that's how you meet people at NACDEP. Just raise your hand and say, "I'm in." And you never know, you got lifetime friends next. But I feel closer to NACDEP people than the people I work with, you know, here in my state almost, because it's such a great group and we're doing good work.
Susan,
Sorry.
go ahead, Melinda.
Oh, it was Jamie that was talking. Sorry. I was just going to say that I had a similar experience when that first year. I didn't actually say I wanted to, you know, have dinner, but I went to Minnesota. I think it was, I can't remember. I do remember Michael Darger did say, you know, ask me what my dinner plans were. And I was like, you know, kind of, I don't know. And so then a contingent of Minnesota and Wisconsin just kind of like scooped me up and took me out to dinner there. And I won't ever forget this because we walked into a restaurant and there was this big picture of Ernest Borgnine. And so it was his favorite restaurant. And so I pointed to him, I said, "Hey, that's Ernest Borgnine." And they said, how do you know who that is? And I said, well, I said, "He's Mermaid Man from SpongeBob." And they were like, what are you talking about, Mermaid Man? And so I was like, well, that's how I know him, you asked. And it just became a joke at the table, you know, Mermaid Man, or which is Mermaid Man's favorite, you know, pasta, or, you know, so it was a good time. They're good people.
How could they not know who Ernest Borgnine was? And the fact that he and Tim Conway reprised their roles from the positions they had in McHale's Navy with Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Well, see, they didn't know who Mermaid Man was. That was they were just like, what?
Yeah. Or if I'm right, Flowers for Algernon. Google it. It's a dramatic movie. I can't talk if I mute myself. Of course, you probably would like that better. But does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? I do have a question. Tammy, where'd you grow up in Virginia?
I grew up in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, near Monticello.
Okay. Know where that is. Kind of hard not to. You're in Virginia.
Yeah.
Melinda, is now a time to mention how awesome this year is going to be, but how even potentially more awesome next year is going to be?
Well, I had planned to end my little speech was saying, you know, don't wait till next year. You want to make connections this year, you know, reach out to somebody during this virtual conference, make sure you join a conversation like this or other conversations, and, you know, just take the time to network even though it's virtually. But all that said, which is very true, next year is going to be awesome. So I think it will be a whole lot of fun, and we're planning, definitely when you see us drop the link in for the mobile workshop survey, take that, because we really want your feedback on what we want to do. There's so many choices. We have like 16 options right now. We can't do 16 things. So definitely let us know what you think would be the most cool thing to do in Indy. And really there are cool things to do in Indy. So yeah, we're really looking forward to being ready for you.
And before we go any further, one thing that I need to do is thank our sponsors, because we could not do this without their help. We're platinum sponsors, our University of Idaho Extension and Washington State University Extension. And bronze sponsors includes this list here: Alaska Fairbanks, New Mexico State, Colorado State Extension, Oregon State Extension, University of Guam, University of Nevada, University of Arizona, American Samoa Community College, and the 4 regional development centers: the Northeast, the Western, the North Central, and the Southern. These, you know, and you're wondering, why do we have all these people from out West? Because originally we were supposed to be in Coeur d'Alene, but COVID had a little different idea. So we're going to be in Coeur d'Alene in 2023. At least that's the plan right now. And I mean, that's what the plan is, correct?
Correct. Otherwise, we probably would have gone in the hole on this conference because it would have cost us money to cancel at the hotel. So
right. So
they extended the olive branch and we took it. And
yeah.
So we said, well, we'll come back in 2023 if you don't charge us anything.
Yes. So. Yeah. We missed going to Portsmouth, New Hampshire last year, which has me more upset now than before, because I actually found out that that's right across from Elliott, Maine. And I've got somebody I went to high school lives in Elliott, Maine, which I had no idea until I started reaching out to friends during the pandemic on Facebook or trying to find high school. See, you never know what is out there and what NACDEP can lead you to. And I think that's probably as good a note to close it on. If no one has anything else they'd like to say or add, this is, I mean, for those of you who are new, this is a way to begin your NACDEP experience. Hopefully, if you have questions, just ask during this. We are an open bunch. We want to help you. We want to help you succeed, because when you succeed, we succeed. And you never know who's going to be your next partner on a project. And I also like to thank my committee. A couple of people had to drop off for other things, but many people I had who came here, volunteered to serve as facilitators, and we were all ready to go. And this is something I've been very appreciative of that all year, because it's not something you can take for granted when you're working in communities, when working in other organizations. They don't all get along this well. There are some organizations right now where there's, I'm involved in, where there's almost open hostilities, and it's a shame, because we should all be in agreement on what direction we want to go and what the overall objective is and why we're there, and that's not always the case, but it is within NACDEP. Last chance for our newcomers, our old timers, or anyone in between.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And even though we were mighty, because what information, hopefully you got something that's going to help you, and that's the most important thing. Even if there were just one person here, we would definitely want people to know what's available. So go out and be our ambassadors and enjoy this conference.